Township Council done surrounding stormwater systems? Have you done anything into implementing stormwater systems or making sure that people check their stormwater systems?
The stormwater systems, we have a stormwater law that's based on the New Jersey State stormwater law. And so we put a new law, council voted on one
very recently.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, based on
last year? Yes.
based on what was the new state law at the time. And then we and now the state is looking at changing that again more towards maybe raising the floodplain in certain flood areas. But just going with what we have right now, which is based on state law, one of the things that we have done in addition to paying a lot of attention and I'll
To stormwater
when there's a new application, we do pay a lot of attention to the numbers. The way the law works is if you have stormwater that comes off of your property and you are going to now do a major building, you have to prove that less stormwater will be coming off your property and in good quality stormwater than before. And there's some numbers and percentages and things that go with depending on the size of the storms, but the general bottom line is that if you're doing something like putting impervious surfaces in or things that might affect how much stormwater would come in the property, you can't just say, well, more is going to come off. You have to put in enough stormwater systems that are built according to newer laws that not only reduce the amount of stormwater, but there's something called recharge, which means you can't just take it away, that some of it has to try to go back into the earth. And then there's also water quality. There's a certain, so there's things built into the system to design the stormwater systems with different layers. So if it's going back in the earth, the contaminants are taken out. And that's a whole complicated piece. When you ask about the maintenance of it, one thing we have done in our stormwater law that I really, really appreciated is that the engineering department has put in there that every year, particularly commercial enterprises have to check their system, make sure it's still operating as it's supposed to. If it says that there's going to be 80% less, and whatever that outflow number is, whatever the quality numbers are, there's a whole huge manual. They have to first supply engineering with a whole huge manual for how they're going to maintain it and what their specs are, and engineering has to approve it. And then every year they have to certify that they've had that system checked.
Yes.
And there's an inspection.
And that there's been inspected, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because that part of it is going back to people who have old systems, and now they have to work with them because there really isn't a lot in some of the old systems to look for. So
it's not as simple as like I'm building this house or I'm building this building or whatever, and I'm going to just run the water into the drain. That it's not as simple as that.
Which was the old.
Was the old way of doing it, but not anymore. The whole purpose is not to increase the stormwater, but reduce the stormwater. So when you are building something, we take into great consideration how everything is built, and the stormwater coming out of the place is actually at a reduced rate.
And the quality of it. And the newer set of systems is not to depend on a large project on just having a couple of basins on the side and then having some of the overflow go into the stormwater, which puts it into the lakes, but to have a lot of smaller systems around that pick up the water. And you may not even see them. Some of it, the systems go underground, and then there's and it's not chemical treatment, it's a matter of the water going through various layers underground and recharging it there. And there have to be more systems, they have to be more spread out, so that gives you resiliency. If one of them gets stopped up, then others will be working. And so I feel that this insisting that everybody check their system, certifying it and putting it as a legal document is a big step forward, because I've seen where you can put in the best systems in the world and then you just leave it and these things get clogged, they get
Right.
dirty things, and you might as well not have had them. So this for the long haul will help us.
Right.
Yeah.
The one other thing to add to it is, like, just because, for example, you have an acre land, you can't really build on the entire acre land, right? You only have a certain percentage that can be built upon. Because again, for environment purposes, if you built upon that entire land, then where would the runoff go, right? So that is residential, commercial, for all purposes. Those are very important, and I think our planning board, zoning board, does a very good job at making sure.
Every piece of land in West Windsor has what's called a MICA maximum impervious coverage. And when you build anything, whether it's doing it your house, whether you're doing it for a business, you can't go well for that maximum impervious coverage without getting some kind of relief before one of the zoning or planning boards for it. And if you do go and ask for that relief, then you are going to have to prove that you have really good ways of handling it before that's given. So that is watched. I mean, it's watched to the 0.1%.
It's not that easy to get a relief. It's not.
It's debated. It's what do you? It's almost like, well, if you're going to do that, how about putting in some environmental, which we're not allowed to do trading in planning boards, but there is a lot of discussion about, okay, you're doing that. What are you doing to help with something else so that we have a more environmentally friendly project?
So yeah, it's not easy to get a variance or a relief on any sort.
And there's also something called FAR, which is floor area ratio, which involves how much building you're allowed to do and on how many floors and how much area is being used, so that things aren't so crowded in places. So there are a whole bunch of specific to zone, and then also bulk regulations, how close you can build something to something else. There's a lot of rules before you can make a number of changes in the town, and those are looked at by our before it even gets to the planning board. They're looked at by our engineers and our
they're looked at very thoroughly under a magnifying glass, probably, with an eagle eye.
And then when the planning board gets it, the planning board looks at these plans with a lot of detail. So we do that.
All right. Well, this has been a very insightful interview. Thank you so much for speaking on all of the way the council works, the environmental committees, and all these projects and practices that have been around the community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us your time to educate us. Definitely we will use this for our education purposes, and also we'll try to raise awareness in the community, in our schools, and just try our best with that.
Is there anything you would like to add, like a message to our youth?
Yes, I mean, when I think about volunteering, and when I'm talking about volunteering, that means if there's a project, and somebody says, hey, can you come out and do it, whatever it might be, think about actually coming and helping with that.
Yes.
And pay attention to the science. Don't listen. Sometimes there's people yelling, and it's hard to hear when people are yelling. Get the facts, pay attention to the science, the engineering pieces of it, and maybe go into those fields and come up with new ways that these things can be handled in an environmentally friendly way. Because it's not what we think is best today may not be best. There may be new ways. There may be better ways. Things we thought were good 30 years ago, we now know aren't. You're the future, so you're the ones who are going to be coming up with these.
Absolutely, that's what I would add. You are the future, the young generation. It's you are our tomorrow, right? So, one thing that I always tell my kids is let's do better for tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? Because as Andrea mentioned, what was good yesterday is not good today. So, absolutely, it's really nice to see young people like you being environmentally conscious and trying to do a project and not only taking learning but hopefully continue and go give that learning to your peers. So continue to do that, and yes, as my colleague here mentioned, volunteer. I think we are all volunteers here, so we always look for volunteers. So good luck with your project. But if you have any other further questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
some words, yeah.